Hi girls and boys, it's another week and that means it's another letter and that means it's another creative writing book. And this week we are doing the letter E and it makes an S sound, F for elephant. And before you try and guess, we're not going to draw an elephant. Oh no we aren't, we're going to draw something else beginning with an E. But before we do that, let's see how we write the letter E. I've got my little board and I'm going to use my chocolate today. So let's practice doing an uppercase E now. You've all done this before, so you guys are experts. Did you see that? Experts. Begins with an E. Big line down, jump back up to the top, and then you do a little line along, jump to the middle, a little line along, and then jump right to the bottom and do a little line along. There's our uppercase E. Now a lowercase e doesn't look like an uppercase E at all. It's very, very different. You start with a little line and then you do a little curve going up and around so it touches the beginning of that little line that went across. And then you bring it back round again. So you almost bring it right round. So you go along, up, make a little curve, curl it round, and you finish before you touch. Otherwise it would be a circle, wouldn't it? We don't want that. Uppercase E, lowercase e. So they don't look anything like each other, but they both say eh. Okay, so you ready to draw a picture? So let me put this down to one side, because we don't need that little board anymore. We are going to draw something that you guys eat. Some of you might like them and some of you might not. I like them, but when I was your age, I didn't like them. So they, you get them on a farm and they begin with the letter E and a chicken lays them. Did you guess egg? If you guessed egg, you are so smart, you're right. We are going to be drawing eggs, but not just any old eggs. We are going to be drawing egg heads. We're going to be drawing Mr. and Mrs. Egghead. Is that funny? You know Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head? Well, kind of like that, but not potatoes because that begins with a P. Eggheads because that begins with E. Okay, so let's write eggheads up at the top. Uppercase E, big line down, little line along, little line along, little line along. That's an E. Now we need two G's. Egg. That says egg, and now we're going to write the word head. H, E, there's a little e, you see it, a lowercase e, A, D, S. Eggheads. Okay, you ready? Eggheads. So let's draw Mr. and Mrs. Egghead. Now you'll have seen at the bottom of my board, I have a lot of different shapes. Can you see them all? 8 different shapes. Now, an egg is the shape of an oval. This is an oval. So we're going to be drawing 2 ovals, one for Mr. and one for Mrs. And if you look, when I draw, there are going to be all of these shapes in the egg heads. Circle, square, you can say them with me, rectangle, we know this one, happy heart, star. Now this is a tricky one. This is a tricky one. It's called a trapezoid. Begins with a T, a trapezoid. And you can see 2 long lines and then 2 diagonal lines. Now I remember this is called a trapezoid because it kind of looks like a trap. Like you could trap a leprechaun in there. Trapezoid. In here is half a circle and that's called a semicircle. So when I'm drawing the eggheads, have a look and see the shapes that I'm drawing and see how I'm doing them because you can practice your shapes too. Okay, so let's start with Mr. Egghead. So we need to have an oval, of course, because eggs are oval. So an oval is like a squashed circle. So it's long and thin like that. So I'm going to draw him a little bit bigger than that because that's a little bit small. Let's draw a slightly bigger oval. So you start at the top and you do like a squashed circle. A circle would be big and round. This is long and thin. Okay, so there's his body. Now, also listen out for the things that begin with an S sound. So we know that egg begins with an E. So what about these? He hears with them. What are those? They're ears, and ears begins with the letter E. So that's another E word. Okay, so for Mr. Potato Head, we are going to have circle, eyes. And eyes begins with an E. That's another E word. Eyes begins with an E. Okay, now, we also need to give him some arms. So let's give him some arms. And some hands. Right, so we all have arms and hands, and so do the potato heads, and so do the egg heads. Okay, so 2 arms. Now, where your arms bend, what is this called? What's that called? Did you say elbow? Elbow is right, and elbow begins with an E as well. So many E words. Okay, so we have elbows, eyes, ears. They all begin with E's. Now, so let's start drawing our Mr. Potato Head. So I think we should give him a hat. And I'm going to make his hat a shape. See if you can figure out the shape. What shape is that? Square. You're right, a square. It has 4 sides, straight sides, and they're all the same. They're all the same length. So there's his hat. Now let's give him some glasses. I think it'd be funny to give him some glasses, but let's give him some blue eyes first. Let's give him some blue eyes. There we go. And let's give him some glasses. Now look at the shape that I'm going to draw for the glasses. I'm going to join the glasses together in the middle, but let me draw 2 shapes. One there, and they're both the same. Now, can you see what shape those glasses are? It's not a square because these sides are longer than those sides. They're rectangles. If you said rectangles, you're right. Because rectangles have 2 long sides like that and 2 shorter sides like this. You see? Okay, so there are his glasses. And he needs to have a nose, of course, because he needs to be able to smell our Mr. Egghead. So I'm going to make his nose. You see the triangle there? I'm going to make it into an arrow because I think it would be funny. So an arrow is just a triangle with a square on the top. Can you see? I'm just going to colour it in. So there's the square I'm colouring in, and there's the triangle. So there's his arrow nose. Isn't that silly? And I think we should give him a moustache because I think he's going to look very smart and handsome with a moustache. So let's give him a moustache. And of course he's going to need a mouth, isn't he? So let's give him a mouth. Now watch the shape that I'm going to draw for this. It's a straight line along. Oh, my red's run out. Let's get another red. Oh, goodness me. Good job I have a lot of pens. So a big line along. Oh my goodness, all my reds are running out. Let's have a look at this one. There's one. A big line along, and then a round part at the bottom. Do you recognize that one? That's the semicircle. You see it there? That's the semicircle. So there's his mouth. Okay, and he needs to have some shoes, doesn't he? But before we give him some shoes, why don't we give him a bow tie? I think a bow tie would look very smart. So watch the shapes that I'm drawing when I draw his bow tie. Watch this shape. It has 3 sides. Can you see it? It begins with a T. Did you say triangle? You're right, it's a triangle. So there's one part of his bow tie. I'm going to put the middle part. I'm going to put his bow tie off to the side so he looks very dapper. And there's another triangle. Can you see me drawing them? Kind of looks like a slice of a pizza. So it's pointy up one side and then 2 points at the other side. When you draw a triangle, it looks like a pizza. It's 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. See that? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there's our bow tie. He looks very smart with his bow tie, doesn't he? And let's give him some feet. Now his feet are a shape that is the tricky one. Remember I said it looks to me like it would trap a leprechaun. See? Trapezoid. So let's draw 2 trapezoid feet. So a trapezoid is a shorter line at the top and a longer line underneath, and then 2 diagonal lines. 1. Actually, that's a bit of a big foot. Let's make it smaller. Let's make it smaller. You see how I'm doing that? A little line and then 2 diagonal lines and then a big line underneath. Let's colour them in. His feet, his trapezoid feet. Okay. Can you see that? The 2 trapezoid feet, they're a little bit close together, but you get the picture, right? 2 trapezoid feet, so I think he looks very handsome, doesn't he? I think he does. But he needs to have a lady, doesn't he? He needs to have a lady. Let's colour in his hat. He needs to have Mrs. Egghead. Okay, otherwise he's going to get lonely. So let's draw Mrs. Egghead, and of course she starts off like Mr. Egghead as an oval. So remember, we're going to draw a squashed circle. There's our squashed circle for Mrs. Egghead. Let's give her 2 ears, beginning with E, and let's give her 2 oval eyes. Let's give her 2 oval eyes, and let's make them blue as well. There we go. Good. And I think we should give Mrs. Egghead a triangle nose. So let's make it that pointy 3 sides. There we go. There's the triangle. Good. Okay, and she needs to have, I think, some eyeshadow. We know that I begins with E, so eyeshadow begins with E, and her eyeshadow goes on her eyelids. Eyelids begins with E, and let's give her some eyelashes. And eyelashes begins with E as well. Lots of E's. Okay, so we have her eyes and her eyelids and her eyelashes all beginning with E. Now what we need to do is give her a mouth, don't we? Now when we draw the mouth, I wonder if this one is going to work. I'm going to do another shape. And this is the one with the point at the bottom and 2 curves at the top. Now, if you watched my Shape Detectives challenge last week, you'll know that this is a heart. So let's make the heart a mouth. And let's make it nice and smiley. Because she's very happy that she's with Mr. Egghead. So there's our heart mouth. Good. And now we need to give her some arms. So let me find my brown. There's my brown. I'm going to make Mrs. Egghead waving. Hello. And let's put another arm down here. Because Mrs. Egghead is going to be carrying something. Okay, so there she is. Let's give Mrs. Egghead some shoes. And we're going to give her a different shape. Oh, a shape that I didn't put on here. Oh my goodness, I forgot. So 1 diagonal line, another diagonal line, another diagonal line, and 1 back up to the top. Now you could also start it like this. You could start it like a V, and then go up, and then down. Now, do you know what shape that is? We did it last week. It begins with a D. If you said diamond, you're right. It's a diamond. So let's give her diamond shoes. I think diamond shoes would be very cool. So let's give her some diamond shoes. Okay, diamond shoes. Now, she's missing something on the top. We can't have her not have a hat. We need to give her a hat like Mr. Potato Head. Mr. Potato Head, he looks like a potato too. Silly me, Mr. Egghead. So let's give Mrs. Egghead a hat. And I am going to make her hat. See if you can figure it out. Can you remember that shape? It was the same shape as Mr. Egghead's mouth. It's a semicircle. So let's give her a hat, a fancy pink hat, some fur. And I think we should give her a fancy shape in the middle of her hat. Let's make it a, see if you can figure it out. What shape is this? Did you say star? If you said star, you're right. A star has 5 points. A star has 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So she has a star hat. I think that looks beautiful. And let's give her some sparkly earrings. And earrings, of course, begins with an E. See the little circles on the end? And I think we should have Mrs. Egghead carrying something on her arm. And I think it would be fun if she carried a little purse. So let's give her a purse and watch the shape that I draw. So that's the handle. Watch the shape. Big line, and two little lines, all straight. So what shape is this? Did you say rectangle? You're right, it's a rectangle. And I think it would be fun if she had a star to match her hat in the middle of her rectangle purse. So let's do the star. Now, girls and boys, I will teach you how to do these shapes in one of my math lessons because it's fun to be able to draw shapes. So I think we have it, don't you? I think they look very cool. And obviously you'll be able to colour in your eggheads. I can't really colour in on the board, it makes it kind of tricky. But I will show you one that I did before. Let me put down my eggheads. And I will show you one that I drew before, because that way you guys will be able to maybe have a look at it too. Because you're going to do yours, and you're going to do yours on for your creative writing book. So yours will be on paper like this. So you can see all the different shapes that I drew. And there they are, Mr. and Mrs. Egghead. So have fun drawing those, girls and boys. And I'm going to see you again soon. Bye.